Welcome to the Phantom Zone.
Legend tells of a caped crusader, Batman, guardian of New Gotham, and his one true love, Catwoman, the queen of the criminal underworld. Their passion left behind something extraordinary. A daughter, Huntress. Half metahuman, she has taken up her father's mantle and fights to protect the innocent and helpless. Joining her in this struggle, Oracle, once Batman's protege, Batgirl. She was caught in the crossfire of the war between Batman and Joker. Now she fights crime a different way, a master of the cyber realms and trainer to heroes. Together they have taken in Dinah, a metahuman herself, with powers that she is only beginning to explore. These three are the protectors of New Gotham, the Birds of Prey. My name is Alfred Pennyworth, and this is their story.
Hello, this week we watched the 2002 pilot for Birds of Prey. I'm Lou Gonzalez. Joining me as always is Alan Muir.
I kind of liked it.
I liked some concepts. I can tell you there is a character and an actress I very much don't like in this pilot, in this role specifically. Because, I guess, so our main cast, we're watching the 2002 Birds of Prey pilot. So this is what, 2 years into, almost two full seasons into Smallville when this debuts. And the concept of this show is it's sort of in the same world as Smallville.
The same world, same executive producers, same composer.
Yeah, because they reference the meteor showers in this pilot, but it takes place in some future.
New Gotham.
Yeah, they refer to it as New Gotham, but it's like an undeterminable future from 2002. I would say it's at least if conceptually Batman and Superman are around the same age, this would be 35 to 40 years in the future, would you say?
Yeah, based on
because if
they're discovering who their parent is.
Oh yeah, because that happens later on in season 1, right? In this show.
Yeah, everything happens in season 1. Well, I think the show only made 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, before it got canceled. It's all on DC Universe still before everything gets moved to HBO Max. And so the show revolves around our three main characters. So our main lead, I would say, is probably the person who's done the least out of the show, of especially in the pilot of our main cast. That's Ashley Scott, is playing Helena Kyle, which we opened this entire episode with 7 minutes of exposition and world explanation. And so in this version, which is kind of the Earth 2 version of Helena, where she is the daughter of Bruce and Selena, although in this world, Bruce doesn't know she exists. And then she is there, very similarly to Bruce, to watch her mother be killed. I'll circle back around to that. So the actress playing Helena is Ashley Scott. Her other big roles for this, she was in AI and Dark Angel, Walking Tall. She's the hot girl that gets 2 lines. I've seen her in a couple of other things. She's been in 12 Rounds, Just Friends, Into the Blue, a show my wife watched, which was Unreal. She was in that. She does a voice for both The Last of Us games, and she appeared in the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover event, reprising her role as the Huntress. And I will say, as we get through it, she is the problem I have with this show. And basically, so in this intro thing, which we haven't done in a while, Helena Kyle Huntress is there's so many different Huntresses, but this one is, I'm pretty sure it's the Earth 2 one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's Helena Wayne, and so she wears basically the same costume in the comics that all of the Huntresses wear, but this specific version is, she's kind of it depends on which comics you read. Most of the ones I've read with her, this specific version in which I'm not a particular fan of this version. She's kind of like Batman. Like she has like a lot of Batman qualities, except she's like more stealthy and like slick because she's her mom's Catwoman. And in the comics, they all grew up together. And she kind of sees like Dick Grayson as her older brother, which I think in that version they become a couple.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, she's just kind of, I don't know. She's like a wonky version of the character. She's not a character I particularly care for. Like if you watched Arrow, we got like a different Huntress for like a half a season who was then basically never talked about again. But the character is fine. She's basically like female Hawkeye, but with a crossbow. Not a, like she's in the comics, she's kind of more like a marksman character. I'm trying to think of like mainline characters to compare her to. She's like a little bit Elektra, but with like Hawkeye's color motif, but instead of a bow and arrow, it's a crossbow.
Yeah, and she has in the comics the mob twist of Bruce Wayne, like in terms of her parents are killed by the mob.
Yes. I think in all the versions, her parents are killed by the mob, but like the Helena Kyle one is the one that's Bruce and Selina are killed by the mob, and then like Alfred raises her at some point. I don't know. There's so many retcons compared to like the Helena Bertinelli, which is the more mainstream one, which her family's killed by the mob, but her parents were also in the mob. Like her father was a mobster, and that is the one that is the kind of mainline Huntress. She's the one that's in Arrow. She's also the version that is in Justice League Unlimited, which is like a great episode because her and the Question are a couple. And again, a lot like Hawkeye, where she starts off kind of like a villain and then makes like a face turn. And then our second lead of the show is Barbara Gordon. In this, she's Barbara Gordon, college professor and Oracle. And we see, which I do have to give credit to this part, that she was Batgirl. I really think that Batgirl costume aged very well in the snippets that we get. And it's one of my more favorite designs of the Batgirl costume. I am in the minority where I'm not a big fan of the Burnside look. I like the color motif. I don't like the design, but it's also like not kind of meant for me as like a 33-year-old man. Like that was a book meant for a younger crowd. And she is played by Dina Meyer. I don't think we need to go too far into who Barbara Gordon is. Pretty much if you know anything about DC Comics and Batman, you know who Batgirl is. And what we do see is basically that the Killing Joke happened. And basically Batman and Joker fight, which we get a very bad looking Joker. It looks like fan film quality makeup. But is it Mark Hamill doing the voice?
Yeah, they dubbed the actor and put in Mark Hamill's dialogue, or Mark Hamill's voice. Yeah,
because I see, he's credited as Mark Hamill. Did they do like a ton of recasting in the show? Because I see like another person as like Sherilyn Fenn was in it, but she must have got recast because she's not in the pilot. It says Roger Stoneburner was the Joker, who's just like a stunt guy. And the Batman costume basically looks like the Keaton Batman. I'm guessing it's probably, I didn't look. It's got to be that costume. It looks just like it. So the Batgirl costume I'm looking here is the costume from Batman and Robin. They just painted it to make it the gold color underneath. And the Batsuit's from Batman and Robin, not the Keaton one. But the cowl is from Batman Forever. Okay. So I like that. Oh wow, they reused a ton of stuff in here. I'm looking. The Batmobile. So we get in our flashback in the beginning to like go back around. So we have our narrator, who I think might be Alfred. I don't know. Basically, we have Helena with her mom. We see like their kind of backstory where like she's raised by her mom. Her mom was Batman fights the Joker. Joker gets away. After he gets away, instead of going after Batman, an actual very Joker thing to do, he goes after people he loves. The first one he does is Catwoman, and we see Helena with her mother, and then somebody with a knife, and then we cut to a flashback within the flashback of this actress in a Catwoman costume, and it is Michelle. It's based on Michelle Pfeiffer's costume, but the actress has very long hair, so it's kind of interesting where they're. It feels like this is supposed to be tied in to the Burtonverse Batman with the costumes they chose. So that's kind of what we get. Look, but it looks fine. The actress she's on there for 10 seconds, so it's whatever. And then so we see her and Batman fighting, but then they kiss, and then we cut back and she's stabbed, and we have Helena yelling, and mom's like, "Go stop him." And nobody stops it. It's very like Joe Chill-esque, except that there are witnesses. Then we flip to Batgirl doing a whole bunch of stuff, and then she goes home, and there's a knock on her door, and she opens it, and it's basically the scene from Killing Joke where she gets shot. And this is where we pull out to a young girl waking up, who is a very odd version of Diana. What is she in this? Diana Lance. Because again, that's a character who they changed the last name of all time in comics and everything, which is Black Canary, which she is not in this, who will be played by Rachel. I'm going to destroy this last name, Scarston.
I think that's the way it's pronounced.
Yes, and if you've been watching Batwoman, she is the person who plays Alice, which is awesome, and she's probably the best part of that show.
Yeah.
And she's a little kid in this, which is fun. And she's been in a ton of stuff. She was in Molly's Game, 50 Shades of Grey. Was she in the Beauty and the Beast shitty TV show? Yeah, she's in the what's her name? Kristen Kirk, Beauty and the Beast TV show.
Wow.
She was in Flashpoint. Yeah, and she did a bunch of stuff when she was younger too. So yeah, she was in Rain, Lost Girl. She's been in a bunch of stuff, but probably her biggest things are 50 Shades and the now Batwoman. But she's really young in this. She's probably like 18 or 19. I should probably look up how old she is. Let's see. She's 2 years older than me. So, she has the same birthday as my wife. That's funny. So she's 2 years older. So make her 30. She's 35 now. And 2002 was 18 years ago. I can't do math.
So I make her like 17?
Yeah. But she looks it. She looks like a kid, which is great casting. And I think she does a good job. That's not the problems with her character. The problem with her character, as we learn going forward, is
her power set.
She's precog and where's the word? They have it in like the one thing. She's telepath? But it's like a specific like
goofy,
touch telepath, yeah. It's so goofy. But otherwise she's fine. I think Dina Meyer, who's playing which I skipped over her stuff. So Dina Meyer's playing Batgirl, Barbara Gordon, Oracle. She's been in everything if you watched anything in the mid to late 90s. She debuted in Beverly Hills 90210. And then she went on to do her first 3 movies are probably what you most know her for, which is she's the lead female character in Johnny Mnemonic. She's the lead female character in Dragonheart, which is the crazy movie where Sean Connery plays the voice of a dragon. What's his name? That was Ares is the villain in that when he's also a kid. That was in Harry Potter. He's the werewolf in Harry Potter. Oh, shit. Dennis Quaid, David Thewlis.
Okay.
He is the villain in that movie. Yeah, Sean Connery. And then Jason Isaacs is in it. And she's like the main woman in that. And then her next big one is she's in Starship Troopers, which is an awesome, like, satirical movie that people don't always get the satire of it. And then she has kind of like a lower spell in like the 2000s until Birds of Prey. And after this movie falls flat, or this show falls flat, she literally gets like her second wind. So she's in Star Trek Nemesis. Then she's in the Saw movies. She is the female detective in the first 4 Saw movies. And she's in Piranha 3D. And she did a voice for the animated Starship Troopers. And she does like a ton of voice work and TV work. And she was also in the crossover that was last year.
She was?
Yes. I think they flash to her talking to Huntress. They go to her for like a quick second saying like Helena, and then they cut to Helena running across the rooftops. And they actually, unlike many of the other shots, the two of them actually filmed for it. So there's like the two of them, Burt Ward, what's his name? Arliss filmed the thing, because he kind of got the biggest one. I can't remember what his name from the Batman. And then obviously Tom Welling, and we talked about all that stuff before. Got the biggest one. Which is kind of interesting because retroactively, that means that based on the Arrowverse, which I'll never call it the new name they want to call it, or I'll say Flaro, but like it means retroactively this is not in the same universe as Smallville or the same universe as the Burton films. It is a third universe. But at the time this is made, it's supposed to kind of be in both of them. Definitely the Smallville universe.
There is a song, or there's a track from the Smallville soundtrack that is just used in this as well.
Oh, yes. That's the other thing. Like, it's so weird because, so maybe this is taking place in 2040-ish. Would you say that's a fair, like, time period?
Yeah.
It's like, because, if Barbara Gordon is in her, like, 30s, say, at this point, Batman in Smallville would be a sophomore. He'd be high school age. So it's definitely been a while. Especially if, like, Helena's in her 20s. So we get that flashback, and the kid wakes up. We realize that it's Diana, and it's like, oh, it's just a dream. Don't worry about it. It's not real. And then we cut to, I think we actually cut to the bus. Is that where we go to first, or do we go to Helena and Barbara? Like Barbara talking to Helena, and Helena's not responding.
I want to say it's the bus.
Yeah, which is where we get our first, way before they are possibly the most famous person that's in this pilot, gets like this goofy little thing when they're a kid. Although apparently I guess he comes back because he's in another episode. And that is Aaron Paul is in this episode as like a flirtatious dude on the bus. El Camino, Breaking Bad, like I gotta see what else has done at this time.
Because he was in Need for Speed.
Well, yeah, and what is he? This has got to be like super early in his career, though.
Yeah, it was October 2002, or that's at least when I was there.
Pretty much everything at this time is still like little, like doing one episode in X-Files, Third Rock from the Sun, Beverly Hills 90210, Judging Amy, doing a couple of episodes at this time, 902 or NYPD Blue, CSI. He's doing like nothing. Like he's in Van Wilder at this time, like one of the sequels, and is just wasted guy. And then he's just in this one episode. They say there's an unaired pilot in the premiere, but I guess they put them in as two different things. He's not into. I'm trying to think what is like his first thing. Maybe like Mission Impossible 3. Yeah, Breaking Bad is like Big Love is his first thing, I think. Yeah, he's in like Big Love pretty early on and Breaking Bad. So like basically, he's like a nobody at this time, which is fun. I mean, he's like a nice guy on the bus who's like, oh, you're going to Gotham, New Gotham, but not to be confused with Batman Beyond's Neo Gotham, which why you would call it New Gotham when it's still Gotham is weird. I don't understand that concept, but so like, oh, it's weird. Are you running away from something or running to something? And Diana's like, well, blah, like kind of ignoring him. And then he's like, well, at least you have no one person here. And he's like, oh, she's like, oh, I'm running to something. So the idea is, unless you're kind of brain dead, that she is trying to find the two people in her dream. And then this is, I think, when we cut to Barbara trying to contact the Huntress, who's ignoring her. And then we cut into a therapy session between Helena Kyle and probably the biggest name in the show at the time. I would say probably with the most credits, right? In Mia Sara.
Yeah.
Yeah, because so if you've ever seen, oh my God, I just lost it in my head. Ferris Bueller's Day Off. What's the other big? She did like a bunch of like big early 90s, late 80s stuff. Her top 4 things are Time Cop, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Legend, and then a movie I've never heard of. But yeah, and she's in this. I think she might have retired from acting. But yeah, she is playing Helena's psychiatrist, which this is the role that was recast. I don't think we know her name yet. I don't think we hear her name till the end of the episode, correct?
No, when a Huntress is... when we see Huntress at therapy or whatever, or court mandated therapy or psychiatry, whatever, we see her name on the door.
Okay, yeah. So she is Dr. Harleen Quinzel. Again, if you know nothing about comics or anything to do with Batman, that's Harley Quinn. So she was originally cast as Cheryl Fenn. Which is funny because she was in like one episode of Titans in season 1 as Raven's mom. So yeah, Sherilyn Fenn. If you've seen Twin Peaks or The Wraith or any of that kind of stuff, like she was like a big 80s bombshell, but she did not. She got recast. And I think I don't mind Mia Sara. It's definitely like interesting concept to make this character be in this show. I don't really understand where they were going to go with it and how it would fit in narratively to the timeline. Because she's almost like, that's the problem. It's like everybody's almost like not old enough. Like if it's supposed to be in the same Smallville universe, because she's probably what, like 40 in this show?
Yeah,
but like nobody, she's still like Harleen Quinzel, so she was never Harley Quinn.
No, she was. They just apparently did a bad job at working around how the only way I can think of like how things worked out with her is that she was quote unquote reformed.
Oh yeah, because yeah, and her costume that we don't see in this episode is, to say costume, like this is their problem. It's like this is the era where like costumes are lame. I can't remember I feel like it's in one of the X-Men movies that somebody says like a line's like, oh, what would you expect? Spandex? And everything looks so dumb and bad, which is also going to be my other gripe with stuff. Because it's like, oh, the stuff that looks good is the stuff from the Burton that they like the Burton movies that they borrowed, which we see in like flashbacks mostly. So yeah, Helena's all like basically guilty about her mother's death. And then I believe this is where we leave and go back to Diana, who's like in the city, but it looks very Metropolis to me, like Lois and Clark, the TV show Metropolis. Like it's super bright. And a guy runs across the street and gets hit by a bus. And then she runs over and like touches him. And this is where we get oh man, I'm like really bad at my references today. It reminded me of, what's the Christopher Walken movie that they turned into a TV show?
Oh, Dead Zone.
Yeah, that's what it felt like, which I guess is technical telekinesis, or psych. Not telekinesis, it'd be like psychic. Yeah, so we get, and he like tells her about Phoenix or some garbage that's kind of unnecessary. So she sees that. Then we cut to Barbara we see that she's like a college professor in her wheelchair, which I think Dina Meyer's doing good. Sounds weird. Wheelchair work. Like she's doing a good job of like being stuck in a wheelchair and like has this flirty session with this other professor. What's weird is she's an English teacher. I feel like that's this time period of making women connected to English instead of having her be like a science or computer teacher, which she should be because she's a genius. And we get this goofy, flirty session. Then she has a beeper because even though it's 40 years after 2002, we're still rocking beepers. And it says like code Gamma or something, or code Delta.
Yeah.
And so she like has to blow the guy off who's trying to ask her out on a date, and she leaves. And then this is where she goes. Maybe this happened first, and that's why she's trying to talk to Helena. Wherever she goes, and she's doing research on this is like the second suicide that isn't a suicide. And then she goes and we get the bar scene, I believe, with Helena, where she's like, oh, I have that court mandated thing that I got for like helping you fight crime. And I'm like, wait, why would she get court time? And it's like, well, it'll be explained when we see her in her costume, why Helena Kyle is getting court time. And they basically have this spat thing, and Helena leaves her at the bar because Helena works at a bar. And then we have Jesse Pinkman assaults Diana in an alleyway, and then Helena flies out of the sky and like drop kicks him and does some weird kung fu, and then pins him against the wall with her leg, and we get jaguar sounds. A lot of jaguar sounds. And Jesse Pinkman runs away, and I like how Diana's like, oh, it's you. And it's like, and this is like the best work I think Ashley Scott does, but she's just like, okay, weird kid, I'm gonna like leave now. But Diana touches her hand, and then she learns she has like tactical psychic script powers, and she's like, oh, but where do you? Oh, here. I instead of knowing your deepest, darkest secrets or like something, oh, I know where your base is because that's needed to move the plot along. So she has plot, tactical, psychic powers. So Helena returns, and her costume. We need to spend time on this costume, and by costume I mean not a costume. It's like a see-through jacket. Because the thing is, it's not like what the cover photo says or shows. Because it's like kind of a leather, I don't know what you would call that, like corset thing. But she has like a sheer duster and no mask. Yeah, so she has kind of like a, oh man, what's that bad Pamela Anderson comic book movie?
Stripperella?
No, that was the cartoon. What was the one? It was like in the 90s. Man. Because it's very much like a 90s costume. I'm looking it up. Barbed wire. It's kind of like barbed wire, like costume, except she has pants, but she has like a superhero belt that you can barely see, and then a like a sheer like lace duster. And again, no mask. And I hate this costume because it's not a costume. Like, of course you got taken to court. I can see your stupid face. Like, why aren't you wearing any sort of mask? Like, you work with someone who was a vigilante and wore a goddamn mask. Why are you not wearing a mask? And I think this is like the bad parts of Smallville coming in, where like they don't want to do like masks and capes. So like instead of a cape, she has this duster, but we don't want it to be like, it's probably way too heavy. So if it was like a black leather duster, so it's this weird sheer thing, even though they make it look like it's like a leather duster on the artwork. And she doesn't have a mask, and she has this like weird, I don't know, her wig is not great. Like I feel like it's like, I feel bad for making these comments, but like it doesn't look good. Like it's just ill-designed and lazily designed. I don't know. Like I think this show has a lot of problems that like a lot of these like 2000s era shows that were like female led but are very male gazy have. Like this feels like very Dark Angel, not so much Buffy, although Buffy definitely has that problem. What was the other not Buffy, but it was a Whedon show? Was it Dollhouse?
Yeah.
It has like a very feeling of like those type of shows. But so yeah, we have Diana shows up at the place and Helena knocks her out, and then they have this conversation, her and Barbara, and basically they're like, oh, like, what are we going to do? And Helena's like, or Diana wakes up as like, I followed her, but not how you think. I have like powers. I touch people and I can see things they don't want me to know. And basically like explaining her powers. And then they do a goofy CAT scan and they're like, oh, you're using 50% of your brain or something, Barbara says.
Yeah, she makes comments saying like most people use only 4 or 5%, and you're using 50%.
Yeah, and then this is where we get the idea of metahumans dropped and the reference to Smallville with the meteor. It's like, oh, we don't know if you're born with it, if it's mutations or experiments. And then Helena drops like, yeah, there's stuff with like meteor showers too. And Diana asked Barbara like, oh, what's it like? And she's like, we heard noises because I have a new puppy, and she's on a tear today.
I've been watching some of the stuff I've been posting on Instagram. She's adorable.
She is. She has been on a tear today.
Figuratively or literally?
Literally, like attacking all things. So how am I lost? This is like when they're looking at stuff. It's like, oh, I was there. Like that guy definitely did not kill himself. And oh yeah, and Barbara's like, yeah, I'm not a meta, but Helena is, which is they're going with this concept, I guess, that again, this is like the bad Batman Returns Catwoman thing where she's has powers of cat that continue to carry on in live action into the horrible Halle Berry movie.
Oh, yes, that there's actually some connective tissue here with that. The creator or the developer of this show she did the rewrite of the script for the Halle Berry Catwoman film. So,
oh, she was one of like the 32 writers on that.
Yeah, one of the many writers.
Yeah, so like we have this concept that Helena is a meta, which is never in any of the comics in any version of the Huntress. She's just a skilled like fighter. And then I believe we then go back to therapy, and there's some more nonsense. And Dr. Quinzel is trying to get some stuff and talking to her relationship about Barbara, and so she's the daughter of Wayne. And then we get the next morning, and Diana's waking up by Alfred, which I did not see coming, played by Ian Abercrombie, who was in Army of Darkness. He was the voice of Palpatine in the Clone Wars. He's fine. This isn't the look of Alfred that I like. This is kind of more 60s Batman Alfred. Yeah,
with the extremely old look.
Yeah, and he gives her clothes and makes her eggs or whatever, and then he talks to Barbara. He's like, I bought you some food, and then they have like a kind of supposed to be like, it's a lot of backstory of like, oh, can you tell Helena she should come to the house? It's like, oh, she wants nothing to do with that. I barely am able to keep her here, knowing all this stuff is paid for by the Foundation.
And there's a line that Alfred drops saying, I mean, technically it is her birthright.
Yes. And then we kind of moves fast because, I think I skipped the one part because after the guy gets hit by the bus we have the other cameo. Well, it's not cameo. He would be a recurring character and who is now kind of a big TV actor in Shamar Moore.
Yeah.
If you watch Criminal Minds, he was on Young and the Restless, Diary of a Mad Black Woman. He's currently the lead in SWAT. And he's also done the voice of Cyborg in like the current DC animated stuff for the last several years. So I'm looking, starting in Justice League War, he is the voice of Vic Stone, Cyborg. And yeah, he is very young in this. Again, in 2040 or whenever this is supposed to be, dressing very much like a Detective Chandler Bing with like the baggiest of like outfits. And then we have his annoying partner, and he's supposed to be, he's basically like a detective version of the character from the first Batman movie, who's like the only person who thinks that like there are metas and the Gotham is weird, which makes more sense when we get to stuff Barbara says later on. And so like he's there, and then Barbara sends Helena to go check out. They find out that like, oh, the two guys that sort of committed suicide are 4 people that are part of this thing because Diana tells them about the Phoenix thing, and they look it up. It's some shell corporation, so they check on one guy. And when when Helena gets there, he's hung himself. And they know he's there because he ordered a pizza. And that's where Shamir Moore shows up. And he handcuffs her to a statue. And basically, she drops like a whole bunch of like their info. It's like, oh, I'm really here. Like, we're on the same side, blah, blah, blah. And again, this would have more tension if he didn't know what you looked like. Because he can see your whole goddamn face. Like, what's the point of having a code name or as Barbara says, secret identity if you have no mask? It makes no sense. I think it's literally they did not have the technology to make a mask at this point, or they did not want to put like this beautiful woman who they hired like to hide her face, which is probably this all sounds like really gross, but like this is a show that's like everybody in this show is gorgeous. Shamir Moore is like a shredded, like that's what he's known for basically. He is like the big hot, like jacked hot guy in like all these shows. And it's for all these characters, they're all like, that's what Dina Meyer is. That's what like Mia Sara was like a sex symbol, is a sex symbol. And just all really weird.
The only time we actually see a female character masked or something, anything covering their face, is it the flashback later on in the epissome.
Yeah, it's all the Batgirl stuff. Yeah, and it looks good. Like it shows that like, oh, that costume looked good. In some ways, looks better than some of the Batwoman stuff. Still, but like it's still that like rubber stuff, but like it looks fine. And so he's basically he's like the inverse of Renee Montoya, I would say. Since it's like women's superheroes, he's like, instead of like because he's not the commissioner, so maybe he's more like a Detective Jim Gordon to her Batman.
Yeah.
But except that there's sexual tension there. So we get that. Helena escapes, and then we see horrible CGI of her doing flips around buildings. And then I think this is where Barbara and Diana have a talk, and we get like the Batman backstory. And she basically explains everything we saw in the beginning, but adds in that, because Diana gets sent to go look at the place, and they give her goofy Google glasses that are just basically shooting green light into her own eyes with like a laser sight on them. And she's just like, you're going to be my eyes and walk around. So while we're doing that, and then Helena goes to see the fourth guy of this group, who she knows. And Barbara's like, oh, you should just go and ask him. This is where Barbara drops all the intel to Diana, basically all of what we know as the audience already, telling to Diana, and then adding, basically, that was the last mission. Her and Batman were down there. That is where Batman basically did not. She thought he was going to kill the Joker finally, but he didn't. And before the police could catch the Joker is when the stuff happened to Helena and herself. And he was so distraught that he left and basically has never come back again, including like ditching his daughter he didn't know about, which odd to put in there because he didn't know about her. But it's also a weird thing to put in. I guess it's a way to explain why Bruce is never around, is that he has no idea she exists. Because like that's not what in the comics, like he's a very doting father. He's actually like overly protective of her.
Like an example being the end after Infinite Crisis. How he just takes Tim, Dick, and I think Arch. He takes the Bat family and just they go away for a year.
Yes. I'm trying to think. Oh, so this is where simultaneously Diana finds stuff that's like, oh, it's this, and then at the same time we see that Helena is being hypnotized by the guy because he's a meta that they didn't know about. And then so that happens, and Barbara's trying to like talk to her, and then Diana goes there and disrupts him, and he like cracks her in the stomach with a fireplace poker, and she's okay. And then they battle inside using Diana's power. Her and Barbara go inside because Barbara shows up too and throws a not a batarang. It's like a disc. It looks like a CD at the guy. And then he's defeated on the ground. He's like, oh, it doesn't matter what you do. Part of me is still in there. So Diana grabs Barbara's hand and then touches Helena. And then we travel into the dead zone. And then we have a fight. This is where we get like a really good look at the Batgirl costume. And it's awesome. And they fight in the head. And it's kind of like a way to have a battle scene, at least giving Dina Meyer some action, because she was kind of doing all of her other stuff at this point had been kind of action oriented to actually let her do stuff. And then I kind of have the characters grow and like form something together, because that way like Diana saved them. So they defeat the guy in their minds, and when they get out, he's catatonic. And then we basically see they're going to let Diana stay. Barbara and Helena kind of have like a heart-to-heart about everything. And it's basically like, oh, there's stuff to do and blah, blah, blah. And we're a super team.
While they're inside Helena's mind, she's just overwrought with like
guilt over her mom getting killed. Where it's like, it's kind of them trying to do Batman's origins this way. So that happens, and then we cut to the guys at Arkham, which this shot of the Arkham thing is from, I think I read Batman Forever. Like, it's directly, like, it's from that movie. Like, and yeah, so basically we go in there, and the cops have brought in the guy, and they leave, and then this is where we get to reveal that Dr. Harleen Quinzel is actually the mastermind, and she really needed those things, and then he didn't get them, so now she's upset, and she's ruining her plan, and this is the reveal that she's the big bad.
When she punched him, and he just ragdolled, I laughed for nearly 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's not good. And that's kind of where we're left in this pilot, and I can see why this didn't last on air that long. I think there are good ideas here, which is funny because we're basically getting this show in a form this coming year, because they're doing Green Arrow and the Canaries, and that's basically the show. Yeah, because it's his daughter, Green Arrow, in the future. So replacing like Batman and Huntress with like the Green Arrow and his daughter, and Batgirl, and like basically it's doing a version of this show, which is funny because we've also gotten now 2 live action Harley Quinns. I don't think we've had a live action Batgirl since this, but we have had the live action Huntress in Arrow. But yeah, like I don't know, like this is bad early 2000s. Like this is where Smallville is light. And even in that Aquaman pilot, and what was the other thing that was going on around this time? Like they were just much brighter. Like this has that bad Dark Angel, like early 2000s. Like this is more them trying to do Buffy, but with superheroes. I don't know. You liked it much more than I did. I would say besides Dina Meyer, like I would say there's hints of good things in here. It just whiffs real hard. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Alan?
Like they sort of have a good trio of like good core characters. Ashley Scott. There were some parts of this pilot that were sort of pretty cringe worthy. Like when, as you mentioned, the scene where she jumps off the balcony.
Oh, the CGI.
Yeah.
The PS1 graphics.
There was a moment where I was convinced that she turned into a bat.
Oh, when she like jumped up in the air after saving Diana.
Yeah.
Yeah, her powers are very like she has not Vixen powers, but like something similar. Like I don't know. She has animal power. The power of being animal-y.
She wears a neck thing that looks like a totem.
Yeah, she's also like very vampire-esque in her design. again, I think this is that like Dark Angel. I know that's the one I keep saying, but like it feel like that's what it reminded me of. I need to look and see when Dark Angel was, because that was the vibe. Which, if you don't know that, or for anybody that doesn't know, that is the show basically where Jessica Alba got her start,
and James Cameron had.
Okay, it literally Dark Angel ended in 02.
Yeah, that explains it.
Yeah, so it's very similar look, because she's also like enhanced person. I feel like it's also kind of Alias-y, although I think Alias is like later on, right?
Yeah,
that was also not a show that Alias ended in 06. So when did it start? 01. So yeah, Alias is on the air at this point. But like this is this like weird era of like TV of having, because you have Alias, Dark Angel, Charmed, which I love Charmed, and Buffy's over already, right?
Buffy ended in like 2004.
Okay, so we are at the end. We're in the not good seasons of Buffy. Angel's probably on the air already.
Angel is in season 2 or 3.
Yeah, this is just like a weird.
It was bad timing.
Yeah, I feel like was La Femme Nikita even on at this point, or is that even earlier?
That was earlier. I think that was mostly 90s.
Yeah, because I know they've done it like a couple times. That ended in 01.
Oh.
So yeah, this is this weird era of like sort of leather-clad, female-led action things, but they're like hyper-sexualized, and all of these are written by men. Which again goes to like all of the problems like that came out of the other shows that Whedon did, and like in Dollhouse specifically. And I think that's where like a lot of the weirdness comes from here, because it's like I think the concept is here, which is why we're getting this show in 2021, basically. And I think it's just like it just was the wrong time. It's like all the bad concepts of this era are in this show, and like compared to the other ones, like the other pilots that we've watched, like it's definitely better than that Wonder Woman pilot.
Yeah, and it's a shame too because the pilot had the ratings for that was 7.6 million viewers, and your ratings just basically just did a nosedive.
Yeah, I was just looking because of like how it suggests you other shows. The other big show, like comic book show that came out, although it lasted longer. The show that's the reason why Fox owned Spider-Man, the X-Men, or sorry, not Spider-Man. The reason why Fox owned the X-Men and Fantastic Four came out at the same time, Mutant X, and that's more leaning the Buffy side than the Dark Angel side in its looks, and was primarily a female-led show as well. And yeah, like I don't know, like there's definitely like I'm trying to think of the other shows. Like Krypton, I think it's hard to compare because that's really modern. I like the Aquaman show, the pilot, a lot. That Wonder Woman one was not good. This is definitely way better than that Justice League thing. But that's like it's kind of similar because that Justice League thing is like all the bad early 90s tropes, and this is like all the bad early 2000s tropes. I don't know. I am excited to get into season 8, right? Or season 7 of Smallville. 7, yeah. We're still like in the good spot. Like we haven't hit the wall in Smallville yet. So we're gonna be.
Most people say that season 8 is the worst out of the entire 10 years.
I'm trying to. There's the one season where there's like a lot of meta stuff going on with like new metas. That's the one I don't like. Because I remember there's somebody's Parasite, and he's terrible, and that's all I remember. Whatever season that was. But yeah, season 7's not bad. Season 7's good. We get a lot of cool Krypton like stuff coming out in season 7. It's the departure for basically Kristen Kirk, and is that Michael Rosenbaum, or is he last till 8?
No, he leaves after season 7, doesn't come back till the finale.
Yeah, so both two of our like big four characters leave the show at the end of the season, and it does change the show a lot.
Yeah, and Kristen Crook obviously returns in season 8, but then leaves after that, and then the show only has about it goes from like 5 or 6 credited people in the cast to like 4.
Yeah, because that's basically when Hartley becomes a main cast member. He becomes back. He starts coming back hard in this season. Yeah, like Glover's kind of gone. Once Martha's kind of gone in this coming seasons when she kind of transitions out of the show too. So yeah, season 7 is like a big transition in the show. So yeah, I'm excited for that. So why don't we do some quick plugs before we head out?
I'll go first. VG.TV, podcasts, written stuff. We're gonna be doing our Game of the Year podcast episodes, specials, and yeah, just keep it locked on to VG.TV.
Awesome, yeah, and check out the NL Comics and the Watch Party. We are going to be talking about X-Men Origins, or Wolverine Origins, the comic. All the stuff Disney just dropped this week and the Game Awards in the next episode, and then we're going to watch probably the worst X-Men movie and maybe one of the worst comic movies of all time in X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Oh man.
Yeah, so stay tuned for that. And we'll talk to you guys later. I'm Lou Gonzalez.
And I'm Alan Muir, and this podcast stands for Truth, Justice, and the American Way.